Hello everyone, good evening, and welcome to yet another session of Weekend with Wisdom, Advaita Academy's weekend program for the dissemination of Vedanta. For those who were unable to attend the morning session, we have today with us Swami Paraprajnananda ji, who is a teacher of Vedanta. She has been teaching for the last 20 years in Gujarat. She is based in Ahmedabad, and she was teaching today. She, in the morning sessions, she was started with the first chapter of Kenopanishad, and she has been sharing the insights from this wonderful Upanishad with all of us. And now she will continue the same. And those who miss the morning session, they can access it on our YouTube channel. We will be publishing the recorded videos either by tomorrow or a day after. By Tuesday, we will definitely be putting it out, and you can then watch the recordings. With this very brief remarks, and if you have any questions, you post it on the Q&A box and not in the chat box. And I have been repeating this again and again. Please put it in Q&A box and not the chat box. And Swamini ji will take these questions towards the end. Thank you. Swamini ji, please start.
Namaskar to everyone. So in the morning, as Nitinji said, we did first two chapters of Kenopanishad, which dealt with Brahma Vidya. So whatever was to be taught regarding Brahma Vidya, unfolding the nature of the self, all that has been done at length in the first two chapters. So now, as such, as far as knowledge is concerned, Brahma Vidya is concerned, nothing is left. It has been dealt with exhaustively. So a question remains, what is the Upanishad doing in the two chapters, third and fourth, which follows? So now we will be having third and fourth chapter, where again Upanishad continues. Yes, the teaching of Brahma Vidya has been done, but there are always different kinds of students before the teacher. There are some students who can be categorized as Uttamadhikari, which means they possess a very subtle and bright intellect. They have done that work, that preparedness is there, Jignasa is there, Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampatti is already there. And that is why, even though this knowledge is very subtle and difficult to understand if you are not ready, but for them it is all fine. They can grasp it. But what about other students who are still grappling with this, who have still a long way to go, who are just beginners? Upanishad is Shruti, and Shruti is mother. Just as mother has many children, and for her all are same. There may be some brilliant, others not so, but for her they are same. And she caters to all her children in the same way according to what they need. Similarly, Upanishad, which is Shruti, is a mother. Very, very loving and compassionate mother. Before her also are different range of students and disciples, and she has to have some remedy, something for all of them. The best student who could grasp Brahma Vidya, where the Brahma Vidya is taught by Lakshyartha, was fine with them. They could understand it. They went away We can say that. But there are others. For them, now, Shruti or Upanishad in the third and fourth chapter of this Kenopanishad is presenting the same thing, same Brahma Vidya in the form of a story. The same content which was presented in first two chapters will be illustrated in the form of a story, plus some upasanas, that is meditation, will also be recommended, plus the preparedness which is required for knowledge, that is of Brahma Vidya, that also will be recommended. And lastly, the result of Brahma Vidya will be given. So now in third and fourth chapter, these things are going to be done. What? A story will be presented, which will be in the form of symbolic form of what is already given in the first two chapters. Then some upasanas will be presented and some preparedness for knowledge. For that, certain values and attitudes will also be given. And lastly, the result of Brahma Vidya will also be given. So this is the agenda of the third and the fourth chapter, third and the fourth khanda or chapter of Kenopanishad, which we will be doing in this second session. See, in the first session, as I said, Brahma Vidya is given. But there it was pointed out that Brahman is not something, truth is not something which is visible, something which is perceptible. It is not that. You cannot see it with your eyes because Brahman is ashabdam, asparsham, arupam. It doesn't have a form, etc. So there may be people, there may be sadhakas, and there are also philosophers who will not accept anything which is not perceptible, which they cannot see. For them, truth is that which should be seen. So whatever is perceptible only exists. This is what many people believe. In that case, for them, Ishvara is not there. Ishvara doesn't exist. Why? Precisely because he is not seen. If he were there, he should be seen. Since he is not perceptible, just as other things are, in that case, Ishvara is not there. Ishvara is Asat. Brahman is Asat. So there are people who has this kind of ideology, who believe that whatever is pratyaksha, whatever is matter of objectification, only that exists and nothing else. So they also have to be taught. So now what follows will have this in mind, that even though Brahman, even though Ishvara, Brahman, you can call him Brahman, you can call him Ishvara, you can call him Atma, you can call him Satya, etc. These are the different names. Even though he is not seen, that doesn't mean it is not there. It is your Atma. Atma, you cannot say that. To say that Ishvara is not is equal to saying that I am not. Taittiriya Upanishad very beautifully makes a remark. Says asanneva sa bhavati asad brahmeti veda chet. There Taittiriya says, if you say, means if you believe that truth is not there, Ishvara is not there. There is nothing called Atma. Whatever is there is this body, this gross body. Nothing beyond that. So if you believe that, Taittiriya Upanishad says, if you think like this, what will happen you? Asannevasa bhavati. You will also become like that, which means that for you, there is nothing which is lasting. There is nothing to which you can turn to in life. Imagine if you don't believe in Ishvara, what is left? What is left in life for you? You need something on which you can rely, you can turn to. When you don't believe in Ishvara, this is what is going to happen. So I'm mentioning this by the way. So that is the purpose of the story which will be presented, to show that Brahman is. Second purpose is to show or to glorify Brahman, to show how great it is. Nirvishesha cannot be seen, but here in the form of a story, Brahman will be presented, and it will be glorified. It will be shown as a beauty. It will be shown in a very beautiful form. Naturally, when you see some such thing, then you are attracted. Then you want that. So that is also another purpose, so that a bond is created. And you want to worship that Ishvara. For that reason also, the story will be presented. We'll go into that, but the next portion will be presented where a story will be given. The purpose behind the story is this also, that Brahman will be presented in such a form that people will automatically develop, what shall we say, an attraction for that Brahman. And that will make them worship Brahman. They will have a desire to worship this Brahman because they have seen it. That is one another purpose. Plus, one of the purpose is also to show that the pride which we will see, the which the Devatas had, is false. Pride and arrogance is one thing which closes the door for progress. Humility is very, very important. So, to show the vanity and fallacy of pride is also one of the purpose behind presenting the story. And as I said, in the story, Brahman will be presented in such a way that automatically a desire will be there to worship him. So the story will be some such thing which will create a desire to worship Brahman. So that is the main reason for presenting this whole thing in the form of a story. So now let us get into that story part. As I said, what was given in the first two chapters, the Brahma Vidya, same thing is illustrated in the form of the story of Yakshev. So those who have not been able to attend the first session, I would request that you please listen to the first session in some form. That is, you can listen it later, so that you can pick up the threads and can understand and link it with what is coming here in the second session. So yes, the third chapter begins with the Yakshopakhyana. That is the story of Yaksha, where all the devatas have gathered and they are in a joyous mood. Why? Because they have won their battle against demons. As we know, our Puranas, etc., always present that there is scuffle and conflict between the devatas and the demons, devatas and asuras. Always a conflict goes on between them. And devatas are on the part of dharma, are on the side of righteousness, whereas demons are those who transgress righteousness. They try to violate the order and the harmony prevailing in the creation. So these are the two forces. Now Ishvara always takes side of the devatas. Why? not because of any soft corner for them. He doesn't have any ragadvesha. He doesn't have any pakshapata, partiality. But he's definitely on the side of dharma. He's definitely on the side of righteousness. Why? Because it is dharma which upholds this creation. Dharma means righteousness, order, harmony. This creation is run by certain rules, and that is dharma. In fact, let me tell you, Ishvara himself is nothing but dharma. Dharma is another name for Ishvara. So, when there is this conflict between devatas and asuras, Ishvara is always on the side of devatas. That is what happened during the Samudra Manthan also. When the churning of the ocean was taking place, that time also, when the churning was going on, in the story we see that even the devatas and asuras, both of them are doing that, and they want this pot of nectar, amrita. Both of them got tired. So actually, the one who carried out the churning was none other than Ishvara himself, but he remained behind. Similarly, in Bhagavad Gita also we are shown that there is the battle between Kauravas and Pandavas, and Ishvara, Lord Krishna, is on which side? Obviously, Arjuna's side, Pandavas' side. Why? Because they are on the path of dharma. They are wedded to dharma. Similarly, here there was a scuffle, conflict between the devatas and asuras. And because of the help, because of the support, remember this, because of the support that they got from Ishvara, they won the battle. But devatas forgot this. They did not take note of this. And they attributed the victory to themselves. So the first mantra says, Brahma devebhyo vijigye. They won the battle because of Brahman behind, because of Brahman helping them. And in fact, it is Brahman consciousness, Sat, Chit, Anand, because of which it is because of this only that, as we saw in the first chapter, that our organs of action, our organs of knowledge, mind, intellect, this entire sanghata, this entire complex works. Otherwise, they are inert. It is only due to, thanks to the consciousness that all this is functioning. Same thing is shown here, that devatas won the battle, but they became proud and they thought it is due to us. Victory is due to us. And they claimed victory to themselves. And they were in a joyous mood. And this is what happened. Brahman came to know this, obviously, because Ishvara or Brahman is the indwelling self of everyone. So the second mantra says that Taddehesham Vijagno, Brahman or the Ishvara, which is the presiding, which presides as the very self, the indwelling self of everyone, of the devatas, came to know this. He came to know this. He is Antaryami. He could know nothing, absolutely nothing bypasses him. He is the witness. Whatever a human being may do, whatever anybody may do, whatever is going on inside, who is the illuminator? A thought comes in your mind. Who illumines that thought? In which light does that thought get illumined? So what I'm trying to say, that Ishvara came to know of their pride. And he decided to remove their pride and make them see the reality. It was not something that he decided to punish them. No, there is no such thing. He didn't want to punish it. That was not the spirit. But definitely he wanted that this is false pride. And this pride will become the cause of their downfall. Demons do what they do out of pride, out of arrogance, out of rejecting Ishvara. What did Ravana do? Ravana was very powerful but arrogant. Hiranyakashipu was very powerful but could not stand Ishvara. He wanted always to surpass, always to circumvent. When ego becomes too bloated, then it forgets everything. That is why Brahman thought, Ishvara thought, that this pride which has entered into the Devatas will become hazardous for them. And that is why, out of compassion, he decided to teach them. So we should see this spirit. Sometimes, it becomes a blessing in disguise. Sometimes when we confront a bitter lesson, it may appear very bitter at that time, but behind that is compassion. So that becomes the turning point. Sometimes certain situations, circumstances which appear in our life are too much for us to face. And that time we may feel that Ishvara has deserted us. He is not with us. But in fact, that particular situation is necessary for us. Many a times adversity, difficult times teach us a lot. We can say in this context too, that Brahman decided to remove their pride so that they become wise and not reject the reality, not reject the truth. Otherwise, their lot will also be the same as that of Asuras. That is why he appeared before them when they were all enjoying and the party was going on. They were in a different mood. At that time, Brahman appeared before them in the form of Yaksha. It is said here that Tebhyoha pradurbhavuva, he appeared before them in a very, very marvelous and magnificent form. See, this is the only Upanishad where we see Brahman appearing. There is no other Upanishad where Brahman himself appears. Here he appears in the form of Yaksha. So he appeared. And when they saw him, they were all stunned because the form was so beautiful. It was just wonderful. Devatas had never seen any such thing in their lives, in spite of being in heavens. They had never seen such thing. And in the Devatas, there were fire god, Vayu Devata, Indra, etc. All great ones were there. And when they saw this Yaksha, they were all stunned and they did not know what to do. And then again, Yaksha disappeared. Then they are discussing among themselves as to who this Yaksha is. See, they're trying to now what has happened? Jignasa has arisen. We'll try to relate with the story, or relate with the first part too. When the Jignasa arises, then as I said, then opens the door of the truth. The portals of Jignasa has to arise. So, okay. So they are discussing among each other as to who this Yaksha can be. So then they appointed the task of finding out who this Yaksha was to to Agni Devata, to fire god. They called him and said, you go and please find out who this Yaksha is. Te Agnim Abruvan. They called him, fire god, they called him and said, Jataveda etad vijani kimetad Yakshamiti. They told him, go and find out who this Yaksha is. And they called him as Jataveda. This name is also important. Agni is Jataveda. Jataveda means he is Sarvagnya. He knows everything. Because all the Agni is supposed to be very brilliant. Fire god is obviously very brilliant, and all the homas and everything are performed in the yajna, in the fire, and the fire is the one who takes it to the different deities. So he knows everything. So, in spite of knowing everything, we will see what is going to happen to him. So Agni Devata said, okay, I'll go and find out. He is in still that mood, that boastful mood is still there. He said, okay, I'll go and find out. He goes. Then he goes towards Yaksha. And when he went there, he had decided, I'll ask him who you are, etc. But on the contrary, again, when he saw Yaksha, when he saw that beautiful form, he became dumb. He could not utter a single word. He was totally wonderstruck by that form. And instead of asking him what happened, Yaksha, that Brahman, is asking Agni Devata, who are you? And what have you come here for? Who are you? He said. So fire, Agni Devata says, still pride is there. So he says, I am Jataveda. Aham asmi iti bravid Jataveda va aham. I am Agni, I am Jataveda. So that pride is still there. And when people have some qualifications, then there is that unspoken demand for respect from others. When you have this is what we see everywhere. That if you are qualified, then spoken or unspoken, explicit or implicit demand for respect is there from others. This was the same with Agni Devata also. And that is why he boasted that I'm such and such. And so Yaksha was totally nonchalant. He said, what can you do? Tasmin tvai kim viryam. What is your capacity? What is it that you can do? What is it that you can acquire? So Jataveda said, Agni Devata said, I can burn anything. I can just burn anything in Prithviloka, in Antariksha, in Svarga, in all the three worlds, whatever is there, I can just burn it and turn it to ashes. Yaksha said, okay, I'm happy about it. And then what happened, Yaksha presented before Agni Devata a dry blade of grass. Just imagine. The one before him is Agni Devata. And before him, Yaksha is presenting a dry blade of grass. And he said, burn this. O fire god, burn this blade of grass. This itself was humiliating. This itself was humiliating for Agni Devata. But still he kept quiet. And even though he was a little bit angry and he felt insulted that I'm being given such a task, but still he said, okay, I'll do it. He went towards that and then tried to burn it. He just could not. Fire god could not burn that dry blade of grass. Then he tried with all his force. He could not succeed. That blade of grass remained as it is. Agni Devata was really, he just could not lift his face. He kept his face down and walked away, totally humbled and humiliated. Understand? When the grace is not there of consciousness, when, so we are trying to relate it with the earlier part. You cannot accomplish anything without that. So he could not do, came back. And then now Devatas are sending another god. And who is that? Vayu Devata. Vayu Devata means wind god. He is being sent. He also went, and he also had it in mind to go and ask who the Yaksha was. Same thing happened with him. Yaksha, he was also totally under the impact of Yaksha, and so he could not ask him and just kept on looking at him. So now Yaksha, he says, "Who are you? And what have you come here for?" He says, "I am Vayu Devata. I can throw away anything in all the three worlds. Nothing can stand in my way." Yaksha again silently and very softly said, "Okay," gave him the same blade of grass and said, "Blow this away. With your capacity, blow this blade of grass away." Same thing. Vayudevata tried once, twice, thrice, with all his force, with all his vigor. He's trying, but he could not succeed. Went away humbled. And now Devatas felt that they are up against someone very powerful. So now they are sending Indra. The god of the Devatas himself is being sent. He goes there. Ata Indram Abruvan Maghavan etad vijanihi Kimeta Yakshamiti. He said, "Maghavan, please go." Maghavan means Indra. "Please go and find out who this Yaksha is." Maghavan said, Indra said, he thought, "I can do anything. After all, I'm greater than all the Devatas. That is why I'm their king. So I can do it. They may not be able to do it, but I can do." So with this kind of spirit, Maghavan goes. He said, "Tatha iti." And now see what happened. No sooner did Indra approach Maghavan, what happened? Yaksha disappeared. Yaksha totally disappeared. As he is approaching, Indra is approaching him, and Yaksha just was there and disappeared, which means he was not even given that audience to Indra. At least fire god and Vayu Devta could see him, talk to him, but this was also not given or permitted to Indra. Indra is now thinking. He is also humiliated, but he thought. He did not go away. He felt very bad, but still he stood there only and is reflecting in his mind and thinking who this Yaksha could be. Who is he? In a way, some prayer also must be going on in his mind, because now the mood has changed. All the pride has vanished. Standing there, he stood right there where Yaksha disappeared. Didn't even give him darshan. He's standing right there, reflecting. And then what happened? Then suddenly, all of a sudden, Sir Tasmin eva akashe striyam ajagama bahushobhamananam umam haimavatim. See, right at that place, there appeared a very, very beautiful and pious lady. Extremely beautiful, extremely divine, extremely pious. A lady appeared. Bahushobhamanana, looking very beautiful, adorned with all the ornaments. And the Upanishad says a Haimavati. Her name was Haimavati. And here Bhashyakara says that she is Brahma Vidya. None other than Brahma Vidya appeared. See, here once again, this is also peculiarity of this Upanishad, that in no other Upanishad that Brahma Vidya herself appeared. Here, Brahma Vidya herself appeared before Indra to show that without the teacher, teaching cannot happen. Without, you cannot have Vidya without teacher. So she appeared before him, looking extremely beautiful and pious and divine. Indra is there now with folded hands and inquiring as to who this is. Just as the student there inquired, Keneshitam patati preshitam manaha, Keneshitam vachamimam vadanti. Like, who is it? Because of which the body functions, everything is happening in a very intelligent manner. Who is behind all this? And how does he do this? This inquiry. This question is Indra presents before Uma, or the Brahma Vidya, who has appeared before him. There Bhashyakara says that yes, without teacher, you cannot have Vidya, and particularly Brahma Vidya. Brahma Vidya is something you can learn only from a teacher. In Chandogya Upanishad, it is said very beautifully, Acharyavan Purusho Veda. Only one who is Acharya, only one who has teacher. And teacher also, what kind? Not ordinary one. Shrotriya Brahmanishta, one who has the knowledge of the Shastra, one who has the knowledge of the Shastra through and through, one who knows the purport of the Shastras in and out, and also knows the methodology of communicating this knowledge. This knowledge being what it is, Brahma Vidya being what it is, you should know how to teach it. You should know, and that you can come to know only when you have learned it from your teacher. Sada Shiva Samarambham, this lineage of teacher and student, the knowledge is passing on from the teacher to the student. It began with Lord Shiva. And the line of succession is passing down right to our teacher. Every teacher was a student. And who was the first teacher? Lord himself. There the buck stops. Teacher, Bhagavan, Ishvara himself is the first teacher. So from there, this knowledge is coming. So Indra is before his guru. Brahma Vidya, Sakshat Brahma Vidya is before him. Here the text also says Haimavati, or it can be Haimavati means Himalaya, daughter of Himalaya, Uma, who is the consort of Lord Shiva, who knows Shiva, the god of knowledge, which means she knows him in and out, and it is this Uma who is imparting the knowledge to Indra. And she says, the one which you saw and one which disappeared before you is none other than Brahman himself. Tam Huvacha. So, Sa Brahma iti Huvacha. Uma says, Brahma Vidya says to Indra, Sa Brahma iti Huvacha. He says, the one whom you saw was nothing but Brahman, Brahman himself. And then she clarifies, Brahmanova etat vijaye mahiyadvam iti. You could win the battle was due to Brahman. He was the force behind you. He was the one because of you, because of whom you could win the battle. But you failed to notice that. And you claimed the victory to yourself. What is ego? Ego is a non-entity. There is nothing but Brahman. Who is this ego? But still, ego always claims, I did this. This is my success. This is because of me. This is my bright idea. This, that, etc. We go on claiming all the time. But who is there really behind all this? Nothing but Brahman, nothing but Ishvara, nothing but consciousness. The real power, the real source of all the Kriya Shakti, Jnana Shakti, Ichha Shakti is nothing but Brahman, nothing but Ishvara. But when we fail to understand this out of our pride, then we are missing a very, very important thing. Lord Krishna told Arjuna in the 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, when Arjuna requested for the Vishwarupa Darshana, Bhagwan did show him Vishwarupa Darshana, Virat Darshana. And then he also showed him. Arjuna had this doubt in his mind that how can we win this battle? Because before us are some very, very powerful people. Bhishma, Drona, Karna, Jayadratha. How can? I mean, it is not that easy. He may have this doubt in his mind. And therefore, Bhagavan says, Lord Krishna says, when he shows the Vishwarupa, he says, don't worry. Oh Arjuna, I have already killed them. All these enemies, these great ones, Bhishma, Drona, Jayadratha, who could not have been defeated in any way. They were invincible because Bhishma had Ichamrityu. He could not have died unless he wished. They were all of them like that. But Bhagavan says that I have already killed them. Mayai vaite nihata purvameva. He says, I have already finished them. They are already down and out. Mayai vaite nihata purvameva. Then what have I got to do? You just have to kill those who are already killed by me. Don't worry. Nimitta matram bhava sabya sachin. Bhagavan says, you just have to be my instrument. You are just a tool in my hand. The real source is me. I am doing everything. You are just an instrument in my nimitta matra. Oh Arjuna, become a nimitta in my hand. The real thing is being done by me. Bhagavan says, Maya Dyakshena Prakritihi Suyate Sacharacharam. It is I who am there in my Adhyakshata, in my very presence. Prakriti is doing all this. But if I am not there, it cannot do. Constantly, this act of creation, sustenance, and destruction is going on. Creation is going on. In the same breath, sustenance is going on. And again, destruction is going on. These three are going on constantly. Prakriti does that. But when can the Prakriti do? Maya, when can Maya do this? Maya Dyakshena. When I am there. I means what? Consciousness. Means what? Ishvara, the self. This which was presented in the first two chapters as, remember, Shrotrasya Shrotra. Manasaha mana. Vachoha vacham. So pranasya prana. There is an ear behind the ear because of which the ear is hearing. Not that there is a physical ear behind the ear, but it is that conscious principle behind the entire complex because of which the body is able to work. Sense organs are able to function. Sense organs and mind and intellect, they do whatnot. All of that is possible due to the consciousness. Similarly here, Uma said, all this is because of Brahman. And you never took note of that. You thought you have won it. You arrogated, you attributed victory to yourself, which really belonged to the truth in you. And if you can understand that that truth is you, this ego is nothing but a notion, then nothing like it. But you give so much of credit to the ego, which has no capacity without the truth, without Brahman. So all this was taught by Brahma Vidya to Madhavan. Knowledge cannot come without Acharya, as I said, It is in Bhagavad Gita also Lord Krishna says, when you find a teacher, tad vidhi pranipatena, pariprashnena sevaya, upadekshanti te jnanam, jnaninah tattvadarshina. Those who are tattvadarshi, those who know the tattva means reality, tattva means vastu, the thing. Those who know that, go to them, go humbly to them with folded hands and request for that knowledge. Plus, don't order them that I want this knowledge. When can I call you? No. Tat viti pranipatena, pariprashnena sevaya. All this is to be understood in between the lines. All this may not have, it is not elaborated here, but do their seva, which means remain in contact with them, create a bond with them, do some seva. Seva is an excellent way of establishing a bond. In a two, to be able to understand the teacher. And the teacher will also understand you. Then a bond is established. Let the teacher also know you. And you will also know that teacher. Then pranipata. Bow down to them. This ego, all our pride is here. Bow down. You have to show that I am nothing, which is a fact. Ego is just a notion. Ego is not reality. But still we think this is everything. I'm so and so. I'm this doctor, engineer, this, that, etc. Whatnot. PhD, MA, this. Okay, fine. But as long as you do not know the truth, you need to know it and learn it from those who know it. Bow down to them. And then when you find that they are ready to reply, they are in the mood of replying, then ask them a question. Ask them a question pertaining to Brahma Vidya. So this is all understood. So in this manner, Indra learnt all this from Uma. It is to be understood. And and Indra came to know. See, if we relate it to the first portion, see, there it was said, na tatra chakshur gacchati, na vag gacchati, na manaha. Eyes don't reach there. Speech cannot speak about it. Mind also has no reach there. Here we can say that Agni Devata stands for all the organs of action, Vayu Devata stands for all the organs of knowledge, and Indra stands for mind. They had no reach there. Only they tried to fathom who this one is, but they could not. But then the teacher appeared. And when in the right way he approached the teacher, then the knowledge comes to him. So this is how the story is there. Then it is said that since Indra, etc., gained this knowledge, they became humble and they became someone, but that is not important. They tasmad va Indraha atitaram iva anyan devan, because he learned it right from the Brahma Vidya. He is greater than all the devtas. This is the result that is shown over there, but that is not important. But with here, this story comes to an end, where we see that Brahman is glorified. Brahman is shown, and to make the point clear to those who do not believe in Brahman, to those who do not believe in Ishvara. Why? Because he is not seen. He is not seen. If he is there, he should come before me, as if Ishvara needs your validation. He should come before me. Only then and then I believe. So for them, this story is given, that the real Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti, Icha Shakti, behind our complex, behind everything that is happening in this creation is none other than Ishvara. There is absolutely no reason not to believe in Ishvara. When this creation is so beautiful, this creation is working in such an intelligent manner, everything is so orderly. If we find some disorder, then that is created by human beings. But otherwise, in nature, in this creation, everything, there is nothing but intelligence through and through this creation. Even when you see a sprout growing into a tree, when you see a cell, when you see a flower, when you see a bug moving, when you see all this, then we can see how intelligently everything is happening, how orderly everything is happening. One season follows the other. Sun is there, then it goes, moon comes, constellations, everything. There are all these forces of nature which run, which function in the most orderly manner. Do they not point to the ruler? In Kenopanishad, that Upanishad shows very beautifully that such great powerful forces, they are also functioning in such a manner as if somebody is there behind them. Even Yamadevata, that is Lord of Death, Yamaraja has no time. Why? Because he is very busy. You can take some respite. No, why? Because I have to do my work. Otherwise, somebody will take me to task. That is the way it is presented over them, just to show that there is Ishvara, who is responsible for the order in the creation, for the dharma in creation, which means the order in creation. Yes, it is a different matter that we disturb this order. And when we disturb, don't think that we can bypass. Don't think we can transgress. If we transgress, it's going to boomerang on us, which is what is happening. All this corona and COVID, etc., which is simply defying us. Since past 1 year it is going on. What is the reason? Ishvara has his own way of, I won't say teaching us a lesson, but bringing us in order. He has his own way. We have just no right to abuse for our own selfishness. And this is what human beings are doing, exploiting nature right and left as if it is his own property, for his own selfishness, for his own private agendas, personal agendas. Don't think it is all being recorded. It will all come back to you. All this will have its effect. There is this law of karma. And this law of karma is something which is working in the most intelligent manner. There is an effect and there is a cause. It works in such a fashion that you just can't use your intelligence to bypass this. And that is why all this points to the existence of Ishvara, which this story is trying to point out. There are many philosophers, many darshana, who after studying so much, they are quite erudite in their own way. But what is their conclusion? Ishvara is not there. After having learned all this, you see Ishvara is not there. Just one thing is needed. How can there be order? How can there be everything spick and span in our home if there is nobody to look after? You think it just happens on its own? If there is an office, if there is a corporate house and things are just working wonderfully, Do you mean to say it happens on its own? No. There is a CEO whom you are answerable, and you are working for him. He is seeing everything, and he is managing all this. Similarly, this entire creation, there is a design, there is a method, there is a manner. It's all working in an orderly fashion, in a harmonious manner. It points to a ruler. It points to someone, a Niyanta. So, and that is Ishvara. How can you say he is not? He is. And when you do not accept him, you are not accepting yourself, because he is not out there. Ishvara is not out there. The beauty of all this is he is right you. He is right he is very much yourself. Ishvara is Pratyagatma. So Upanishad wants to teach you that when you are negating, when you are rejecting yourself, and you are resorting to all these inert things which are not going to be your support in any way. So this is the purpose of the story. Then, as I said, there are certain upasanas are also given. The upasana can be given only when, what shall we say, when there is first a value created for what you are going to worship. So for the upasya, a bond, a love, an attraction should be created. Only then and then you can worship that. Because in upasana, you should have a sajatiya vritti pravaha. You have to constantly think upon that. Now, before I come to upasana, which are given here, let me just tell you something about this meditation, something about upasana. Upasana is also a means to prepare the mind. When you want to gain Brahma Vidya, you need two things. First of all, you need purity of heart, a heart or mind which is pure, which is noble, which has no selfishness. So all this is needed. And that is accomplished first by Karma Yoga, by performing actions in the attitude of offering and receiving the result in the attitude of prasada. When you get prasada from a temple, what is our attitude behind that? Graceful acceptance. We don't see what is the prasada, but whatever it may be a leaf, it may be an ash, it may be laddu, whatever. From Tirupati, we get laddu. If it is a Shiva temple, then we may get bhasma. But we don't say, oh my God, bhasma, ash I don't like, so I will not take it. No. Whatever comes as prasada is acceptable too. On the contrary, we put it on our heads so that we are sanctified. So this is the attitude towards prasada. Similar should be the attitude towards the result of action. Why? Because it is coming from Ishvara. I offered it to Ishvara as Naivedya, my karma. My contribution is my action, and what I get from Ishvara is prasada. When we live this kind of a life, when we perform our duties in this manner, what happens? There are absolutely no reactions. Mind is quiet, no raga, no dvesha. This purifies us. This neutralizes us of all the papas which are standing in our way. See, papas, papa means unbecoming actions, which we may have done in this life or the past lives, and they may be done by us unconsciously, consciously. We do not know, but it has been done. But today, they stand in our path. So we have to remove them. Because it is said, Jnanam utpadyate pumsam kshayat papasya karmana. Knowledge will happen. Knowledge can manifest. Knowledge is right here. But it will manifest only when all this unbecoming actions go away. When the result, when the effect of all that is erased, kshayat papasya karmana, when the papa karmas go means they will not go away. You have to replace it by a good karma. So when that happens, then you are pure. You are light. You are ready to receive. Mind is now ready to receive. So this is first purity. First work that we have to do. Then another thing which is important is that mind should have the capacity to focus. Chitta Naishchalya. Mind should have the capacity to concentrate. Because, why? Because this knowledge is very subtle. Brahman or truth or Atma is not something which you can see. It has already been said elaborately. It is not something which you can visualize, but still it is to be understood. And therefore, you need that focus. You have to focus your mind. You have to concentrate. Otherwise, the mind, if it is very restless, if mind doesn't have that capacity to think on a subject for a length of time, if it cannot be on a subject for a length of time, then nothing will be achieved. So, mind should have that capacity also. Chitta Naishchalyam. How do I gain that? It may not be there. So, Shastras recommend Upasana. As I said, for Uttamadhikari, all this has been done. He doesn't need it now. But this is a very, very important step. In fact, you cannot do away with this. You cannot skip it in option, skip it as option. No, I don't like this. No. There has to be a place for worship or upasana in our life. And that worship, that upasana also, not just like that. A bond has to be created. A love for Ishvara should be there. Only then and then you can relate. This relating with Ishvara, relationship with Ishvara is very important. Human beings cannot do without it. If you have knowledge, then already you are Ishvara, you know that. But otherwise, this is a stepping stone. When this is not there in life, then no progress is possible. So, for the focus of the mind, for the mind to gain this capacity, upasana, that is meditation, is very, very important. Meditation is such, we will see, it has the capacity to completely transform the mind. Because mind, it is with this mind only that we have to gain the knowledge. Manasa eva anudrashtabhya. But for that, mind has to become ready. For that, mind has to become subtle. It has been said in Kenopanishad, Esha sarveshu bhuteshu gudhotma na prakashate. Atma is very gudha. It is right here. Right? It is myself, but still I don't know. I just don't know. I don't find that capacity to know. I remain what I am, miserable person. So who can see that? Then who can do? Who can see? Then the Upanishad over Kenopanishad say, Esha sarveshu bhuteshu gudhotmana prakashate. Drishyate tvagraya buddhya sukshmaya sukshmadarshivi. Who can see? Those who have pointed and subtle and pure intellect. Pointed was very sharp. That capacity has to be there to be able to understand things. Plus subtle, should be able to penetrate. Just being on the surface is not enough. What is the source? What is the reality? Mind should have that capacity, that sharpness, that subtlety. Where this, if it is not there, you have to have it. How to have it? Then Upasana. Upasana is important. So all the Upanishads mainly talk about some or the other upasanas. There is Pranava Upasana, Prana Upasana. Why? So many upasanas we find in Upanishads. In almost all the Upanishads, barring a few, you find some upasanas. Because the teacher, Shruti, recognizes this need. As I said, Upasana transforms the person and his mind. When you meditate upon the when you meditate upon the Devata, Upasya Devata, whatever it may be, then what happens, gradually you become like that. The principle of Upasana is this, it is like, when you pour, when you heat the wax, it is heated, and now you pour it into a shape, a triangular shape, rectangular shape, round shape. That kind of thing is created, and you pour this wax into that. When you pour it into a triangular shape, then the wax gains that shape. If you pour it in a round box, then wax looks round. Similarly, when the mind passes through this upasana, when the mind is constantly focused on one thing, which we will talk about, then mind becomes like that. So it is a process of transforming the mind, making the mind single-pointed, making mind introvert, making mind focused. This is something which you cannot do without. Shruti recognizes this, and therefore now it gives some upasanas. Which are these upasanas? Then I will show you quickly in the in the fourth chapter, in the fourth mantra, one upasana, three upasanas are given. Tasyais adeshah yadetad vidyutah. Okay, I'll show you. I'll tell you. One upasana is pertaining to the devatas. And it is like showing where Brahman is shown as is shown similar to, he says the upasana is similar to, like here you have to meditate upon Brahman as what? Flash of lightning. Meditate upon Brahman. These are the Upanishad times upasana. Today if we give upasana, then you may give on Vishnu, Shiva, Devi, all this we can give, because these are the forms prevalent now. In the Vedic times, this forms were not there. These forms we got after the Puranas. But before that, this kind of forms were there. And in Upasana, you require a alamban, something, some support, some prop, some pratima, some concept, some name, some form, something has to be there. Because mind cannot, if everybody cannot meditate on Nirguna Nirakara, they cannot do, everybody cannot do. So people require Saguna Brahman. People require some form which has some qualities, beautiful qualities. Meditate upon that. Focus your mind on that. All the thoughts, sajatiya vritti pravaha, all the thoughts have to flow there. Just as they give this similarity with a pot filled with oil. When it is poured into another vessel, then how the flow continues. Similarly, the flow of the mind, the thoughts of the mind has to flow towards the object of meditation in a similar way. Ajya dharaya srotasa samam sarala chintanam viralatah param. Raman Maharshi says that in this manner, like the flow of ghee or butter goes, similarly, the thoughts of our mind should flow in a similar fashion towards the object of meditation. This is how, until then, you keep on meditating. So here Brahman is presented, and Upama, object of meditation, is given what? Like a flash of lightning. Because Brahman appeared, Yaksha appeared before the Devatas suddenly. And they were just flabbergasted by his form and beauty and everything. And here, that kind of upasana is given, that you meditate upon Brahman as a flash of lightning. How the flash of lightning in a second, if you have seen, we all have seen, when there is a big lightning, then it's just in the pitch darkness, suddenly there is light everywhere. And you see everything. Remains for a while and goes away. Similarly, Brahman appeared before them like that, but it filled up everything. So you meditate upon Brahman in that way. This will be what? This will be Chit Shakti of Brahman, conscious aspect of Brahman. The consciousness of Brahman is like this. It just fills up the entire creation. It fills up in a second the entire creation. Keep on thinking like this. So an attribute is given about Brahman, what? Flash of lightning. A form is given, and now you meditate. All your thoughts should flow there. And how long? It should be done with love. Patanjali Maharaj in Yoga Sutra says that this Sajatiya Pravaha should be done. This flow of meditation should be done in which manner? Nairantaryena, Dirghakalena, and Adarena. For a long time, constantly, and how? Adarena, with respect, with love. Not as something, oh my God, I have to meditate. It should not be a burden to you, but with love you do. You look forward to it. It is only then and then the grace comes. You have to please Ishvara. You have to gain his prasannata. To gain grace, anugraha, you require to please. Only then and then the grace flows. And when the grace is there, Krupa is there, Anugraha is there, then only we will change. We require that grace. So we recognize this and do the Upasana. This was one Upasana. Second one was Nyamimishad. Second one is meditate upon Brahman as the blinking of the eye. Just as eye blinks, in 5 minutes, so many times the eyes must be blinking, opening and closing, opening. We don't realize because it all happens involuntarily. Goes on blinking, opens and closes, opens, closes, without any effort. You don't even realize, and it happens. This is another attribute of Brahman. Here the teacher says, meditate upon Brahman as the blinking of the eyes. Just as the eyes blink without any effort, effortlessly, similarly, Brahman creates, sustains, and destroys. Creates, sustains, and destroys. Like in just a blink. So it is so effortless for him. Which means his Brahman's or Ishvara's Kriya Shakti is like that. His Kriya Shakti doesn't mean he's working day and night and is perspiring and sweating and he gets tired. No. Just by his presence. Just everything happens so quickly, so swiftly, without any effort. Maya Dyakshena. Just in my present things happens. Consciousness is there, Atma is there, and this entire creation is functioning both at the macrocosm and microcosm. That is at the Vyashti and the Samashti level. At the individual level as well as the total. Everything just happens by whose mere presence. So think of Brahman as the blinking of the eyes. This is the meditation given. The student has now some support. So he does that. Another meditation is, this was the meditation regarding the devatas. Now Adhyatmam, that was Adhideva, then another Adhyatma. Yadetat gacchati ivacha manaha. Think as if the mind is going to Brahman. This is another meditation. Mind is as it were approaching Brahman. Mind is constantly remembering Brahman, which when the mind, when there are thoughts in the mind, then thoughts come because of Brahman, remains in Brahman, goes back to Brahman. In other words, we can say from silence, which is Ishvara, which is the self, thought arises. What is that thought? Nothing but that silence in the form of in name and form remains, goes back. Another thought remains, goes back. So what is that? Mind is always in Brahman, always remembering Brahman, soaked with Brahman. Think like that. Then you are always with Brahman. So that was another upasana given. Then in the sixth mantra, Upanishad says, worship Brahman. Why? Because tad vanam nama. Worship him as tad vanam. Tad vanam means adorable. He is very adorable. Vanam. Vanam means someone who is extremely beautiful, extremely worshipful, extremely adorable. Worship Brahman as like that. In short, create a bond with Ishvara. And bond can be created when you know the greatness. When can you love someone? Love happens, but when? When you see something very beautiful, when you see some very good qualities, then you are automatically attracted. Somebody is very good, somebody is very kind, somebody is very loving, very helpful. Then automatically a respect is there. And then a place is created in your heart for that person. Similarly, if you want to create that devotion for Brahman, you want to create that devotion for Brahman, then meditate upon Brahman in this manner. He is beautiful. He cares for me, which is a fact. We came into this world without anything. Without anything, we just entered. And who provided for us? Who provided? Right from beginning from mother's milk to everything, which was just given free to us. We have to think like this. That Vanam, he is adorable. Provided I think, provided I take note of what all Ishvara is doing for me. And it is a fact. We are not just making up these stories. Today, the government, you pay for your water, electricity, everything you pay taxes. Nothing is free. Whereas Ishvara gives you everything free. You just as a child, as an infant, you entered into this multiple starred hotel, not 5-star or 7-star. What kind of a hotel is this universe? Multiple stars, numerous stars, where this 5-star hotel I cannot afford. I have no money to pay for them. This is in thousands. I have nothing with me. But I don't have to pay anything to this owner who has given me a permanent stay in this multiple starred hotel. Do I not need to pay him back? Do I not need even to consider this? Do I not need to be grateful? Parents do so much for us. Should we not be grateful to them? Having grown up on their lap, having learned everything from them, they sacrificed so much for us. They remained without things and gave us things. They may not have the smartphone, but they gave us the smartphone. Ask them what an amount of sacrifice they made. When you think in this manner, which is a fact, this is factual thinking, will not respect and love and gratitude arise in your heart? It will. In the same fashion, we take note, we take cognizance of the fact of what all Ishvara has done for us, doing for us, and will continue to do. Even when you abuse Ishvara, even when you loudly speak, Ishvara is not there. Still, who gives you that power to speak? Vacho ha vacha. He's there behind, he's the speech of your speech. So he continues to bless you. He doesn't take back his grace. When we take this note, and we should understand all this. When we understand all this, we are in harmony with the creation. Automatically, devotion arises in us. And then he finds a place in our heart. It is for this reason Upanishad says is Tadvanam. He is worshipful. He is adorable. Love him. Worship him. In the beginning, you do it even if you don't like it. Very soon, it will be devotion. And when Ishvara will see this, and as I said, he's right here. He comes to know everything. In fact, it is he who eliminates all these thoughts. What is away from him? What is hidden from him? Nothing. When he sees this change of attitude, then grace flows. Bhagavan says, he says in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, Tesham satata yuktana bhajatam priti purvakam. Those who are constantly thinking of me, worshipping me with love, bhajatam priti purvakam, with love, with devotion, they are worshipping me, meditating upon me. Then what? What happens? What do I do? Okay, you may ask, we do all this, we love him. Does he love us back? Bhagwan says, I do. I'm nothing but love. In fact, I'm waiting for you to come. I'm your true nature. You have gone away from me. You are the prodigal son. You have run away. Come back. Bhagavan knows that he is our self. And when the grace will come, he will see to it that your ignorance goes. That is why Bhagavan says, when I see that they are worshipping me, meditating upon me, they are sincerely doing it, then what do I do? Dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayantite. Then I confer upon them buddhi yoga. Buddhi yoga means I give them capacity to think. The problem is we do not think properly. We think in the line of Upanishad. We think along with the teacher. They have no personal agenda. They just want to see that you proceed in your life. You make the most of this life. So, with this reason, Upanishad showed Brahman as tad vanam iti upastitapyam. Worship Brahman with this concept that he is most adorable. And the Devatas did see him. So for them, it was easy to meditate that way. One who does that, sa etadevam vedami hainam sarvani bhutani samvanchati. What is the result? People will begin to love you. Love is such thing that you automatically vibrate that. Every impulse is like that. Every quality is, if you hate, then you throw that vibrations to others. If you love, the vibes which others will get from you will be also that. So Bhagavan, so here Upanishad says that one who worships upon Brahman in this manner, everybody will begin to love him. This is just the result that is given. After that, Upanishad gives certain qualifications so that certain attributes or certain values, rather, disciplines, which will prepare us for knowledge. So with that upasana, tadvanam, the upasana part is over. Then what is left is, as I said, one of the purpose of this fourth chapter was to give some disciplines, some values to prepare us for knowledge. Just as they talk about sadhana chatushtaya sampatti. An adhikari, an eligible student for the knowledge of Brahma Vidya should have viveka, vairagya, etc., etc., etc. Here Upanishad talks of some other qualities, qualifications. Which are they? So that is shown. Tasye tapaha, damaha, karma iti pratishtha. The support of Brahma Vidya is what? Tapaha, damaha, karma, which means one has to prepare oneself. So this program for preparing is given. How should I prepare myself? First one is there should be some austerity in my life. Austerity with understanding. Tapaha. Here means, actually it means ekagrata. I develop that ekagrata of mind. So that is tapaha. Then there is damaha. Damaha means restraining oneself. See, sense organs have natural affinity for sense objects. So some tendency to indulge in sense objects is there because that has been the habit. Because so far I thought that happiness is out there. Happiness is in objects outside. So that was the habit formed. Now I have to reverse that habit. So it doesn't happen suddenly. So in the beginning, I consciously do not allow my senses to go there. But this has to be done with understanding. Without understanding, if we do this, then it will become, it will sort of, when without understanding, you don't have to suppress. If you suppress yourself without understanding, if you restrain yourself without understanding, then it is quite possible that it will blast one day, explode one day. No. Here we are saying that with understanding. Supposing I'm fasting. When I'm fasting, and everybody is eating idli sambar and dosa and everything. Now I like South Indian food very much. So and they are all eating right before me. And what am I? I'm fasting. Then I may want it. That attraction is there, but still, I'm fasting. So damaha, no, I won't have. Even though they offer me, what will I say? Thank you very much. I don't want it. So this is damaha, where I consciously restrain myself. What happens? I gain the capacity of the mind to be able to focus. That strength is generated. So that is damaha. Then karma. Karma means karma yoga. performing your duties with an attitude. Karma Yoga is an attitude, not merely performing actions. I offer. I perform my duties with a sense of offering. They have done for me, now I will do. It is my turn to return the favor. So far, I gained their favor. Now it is my turn to return the favor to my parents, to my society, to my country, to Ishvara, everywhere. You just, you can just spread yourself. So karma, done in this manner. These are all this forms the pratishtha. This forms the fundament. This, this forms the support, pratishtha. Then what? Vedaha sarvangani. Vedas, the study of the Vedas and study of Vedanga also. All this also forms the limb for Brahma Vidya. So, pratishtha is tapaha, damaha, karma, etc. The limbs are Veda and study of that. And what is the abode? Satyam ayatanam. I have to steadfastly follow the path of truth, Satyam. First is value. Then I will discover that Satya is not away from me. Satya is my very nature. Sat, the word Satya has come from this Sat. So, Satya is a value. It has been said very beautifully in Mundaka Upanishad. Satyameva jayate navrita. So, a sadhaka, a good human being, has this quality, Satya. Always truth wins. Satya is Parmeshwara. Gandhiji said, Satya only is Parmeshwara. Satya is Parmeshwara. And he discovered that in his life. He lived it. So, Satya is Ayatana, is the abode for this knowledge. So, these are the values given. This is a program given for a sadhaka to prepare himself. These are the sadhanas given, Jnanaya sadhana, which means you prepare yourself for the preparedness of the antakarana, of the mind, etc., by following these values. So that is given at the end. And then finally, in the last mantra, Upanishad gives the result of this knowledge, Brahma Vidya's result. What is the result? Yova etam eva veda apahritya papmanam anante swarge loke jeye pratishtati. One who knows this, what happens when you have this knowledge? All the papa is gone. It is but natural. You are no more that individual. You no more have the identification with ego. Ego is gone for you. Identification, tadatmya with ahankara, mamakara is no more there. Who are you? Chidananda Rupaha Shivoham. That is my understanding. I am Shrotrasya Shrotra, which means I am consciousness. I am Ananda. I am Atma. Where is the ego? When you are this, no more there is any papa for you. So, this is the knowledge. And you abide in Swarga. Swarga is right here. So, this is how Kenopanishad ends. In this manner, it is a very, very beautiful Upanishad. In the first four, totally there are 4 chapters. As we said, in the first 2 chapters, Brahma Vidya is unfolded. And then in the third chapter, third and fourth, first 4 chapters of the 4th chapter, the same thing is illustrated in the form of a story to show that Brahman is, Ishvara is. First know him, first know Ishvara as is, and then it will become I. Asti, first know him as Asti. Brahman is, Ishvara is, and then it will become Asmi. I am that. So, this is how the Upanishad very beautifully showed Brahma Vidya as well as Upasana, as well as values. In nutshell, it has been a very, very beautiful Upanishad. And if you follow it closely, then it takes you right to your goal. Thank you. With this, I would like to conclude.
Thank you very much, Swamini ji. It was again a very wonderful, very insightful session. And viewers, we now open for questions. Please place your questions in Q&A box and not in the chat box. Swamini ji, I have first question I have is I want you to can you please clarify about this meditation on the blinking of the eye. You said that the flash of the lightning is kind of a saguna pasana. Is blinking of the eye? I am still a bit confused.
Blinking of the eye, where the focus is on seeing how the eyes blink at the individual level. Because this is the upama, which you carry to see how Ishvara functions. See, blinking of eyes, as I said, happens effortlessly. You don't even notice, and it happens. Similarly, Brahman, Saguna Brahman, creates, sustains, and destroys and does whatever he does. The entire Kriya Shakti of Brahman is of this type, is of this nature. Otherwise, we tend to think that he also must be needing so much effort, and then he must be doing. No, not like that. And that is why also, like, Lord Vishnu is shown as sleeping on Sheshashaya, and the creation goes on. He doesn't do anything. That just as that is shown, here Upanishad says, meditate upon Brahman and his Kriya Shakti. And you resort to what alambana, what is happening here at the Adhyatma level. Adhyatma means individual level. What? Follow? Blinking of the eyes at this level is given to meditate upon Saguna Brahma, Ishvara, of his Kriya Shakti, which is seen in the entire creation.
So basically, during the Upasana, we need to center our attention to our own blinking process and
yeah, and then you can carry it further. That Brahman also works like this. There is no real toil behind doing this. In fact, it points to what, just as Shrotrasya Shrotra. Shrotrasya Shrotra doesn't do anything. He merely is, and everything happens. Similarly, it is shown in this way, that Brahman is and everything happens as effortlessly as blinking of eyes. If I were just to say that effortlessly everything happens, then you may not understand. No? So Upanishad gave us one alamban. What? That just as blinking of eyes happen. I hope I made it.
Yes, Swamiji. Thank you. It was I got my doubts got resolved. We have a few questions, Swamiji. The first one is in the present times. I think you answered it in the morning also. In the present times, what are the suggestions to enable agnostics and atheists to begin their journey towards gaining knowledge and experience of Ishvara?
They should be invited to think as to how all this is happening, how creation is running. Are they running it? And do you think that they may think that natural forces work on their own? But can anything which is inert function on its own? It's not possible. Without the karta, nothing is possible. So it is their insistence that where is Ishvara? Then we cannot prove that Ishvara is there. We will, on the contrary, tell them, you prove how Ishvara is not there. We will not take the onus to prove that Ishvara is there, because they are bent upon thinking, bent upon, what shall we say? They are bent upon concluding and holding on to the idea that Ishvara is not there. But tell me, you prove that Ishvara is not there. You prove it. Just because he is not seen, then who is doing all this? Can this happen on its own? Can the seed grow into sprout on its own without that intelligence built into it, and all the seeds, they grow differently. How come? So such questions have to be put to them. How come the stars, etc., are functioning in such a way they do not collide? How do you explain all this? Sun comes at the right time, moon comes at the right time. Who is doing all this? Inert cannot do. So this has to be shown to them.
Wonderful, Swaminiji. Might I add a small comment to this for the benefit of the viewers? The question that we need to prove Ishvara, that question itself is faulty because it is based on a faulty premise. That the that it based on a premise that truth is something which can be scientifically proven, which is empirically proven, and in philosophical terms it is called verifiability and falsifiability criteria. But Ishvara or Brahman is by definition something beyond the grasp of the senses, beyond the grasp of the mind, beyond the grasp of everything in the Vyavahara. So, by definition, you cannot prove Ishvara through these empirical means, but Vedanta gives a methodology through which you can have a first-hand knowledge of Ishvara or Brahman, and through bhakti, through karma, through jnana marga, you can experience his presence, but you cannot prove it.
You
So,
cannot. It cannot be
yeah,
proved. Yes, you are very right. You are very right.
I hope I made sense.
Yeah, very
Swamiji.
much. It is very clear that you cannot prove it. Just as it cannot be disproven, it cannot be proven also. At the same time, they cannot disprove it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we have one more question, Swamiji. I think this is the last question we have. Is it required to observe the breathing pattern for the people who are intensely following Upanishads?
Pranayama, you mean?
Yes, yes.
Yes. See, pranayama is also a method to definitely, which it can definitely help. If you cannot quieten your mind, if the mind is too restless, and if think the reflection, if bhakti, etc., are not helping you, if it is too restless, then pranayama definitely helps. In as much as when you control the breath, ayama means controlling, restraining it. When you do that, automatically the mind becomes quiet. So, when you, because it is said, as in Upadeshasara, it is that there are two branches coming from the same thing. So, when you, if the fruit is hanging on the other branch and your hand doesn't reach there, then what you do, you bring this branch which is within your fold, and when you hold this branch, automatically this will come down and you will be able to have your fruit. Similarly, from the one thing, from the Maya Shakti, there is one Shakti called Prana, and the other Shakti is mind. Mind is Icha Shakti, and Prana Shakti is Kriya Shakti. Now, you don't have the capacity on the mind, it is restless. So, you control this one. Which one? Prana Shakti. Automatically, other will be controlled. But here, one thing which we have to understand is, if you resort to this matter, fine. But one must know that once you give up this, again, if this one is not trained, if this one is not transformed, then it won't help. So you can have everything together. Pranayama also, bhakti also, everything can be used. But understand that only pranayama will not be able to help much. That means you keep on doing it and try to control the mind. Better than that is explaining to the mind what is your nature, what is your problem, what is your reality. Manasam tukim, that as Upadeshasara says, think about from where has the mind arisen? What is the truth of the mind? What is the problem of the mind? When you think in this manner, when you inquire, Manasam tu kim margane krute. When you inquire into the reality of the mind, you find that mind is not there. Naiva manasam. It is mithya. Just like that snake and rope thing. You see the snake before you. Actually, the object that is lying over there is rope. But you mistake it to be snake. Huh? And now you are afraid of that snake. So rather than doing pranayama, oh, that snake is there, snake is there. Rather than that, go to that snake, throw torchlight upon it, and you will find, oh, that snake is not there at all. Similarly, you are afraid of the mind. So you take this technique of pranayama. Do it fine. But ultimately, better path is inquiry. Inquiry. What is the mind? When you will proceed on that path, then you will find that mind is mithya. Mind is not real. What is real? The reality of the mind is Brahman.
Swamini, we have one more question. This is regarding meditation. While doing meditation, by sitting in a proper posture and etc., sometimes we experience cool energy. I'm not sure what he means by cool energy, but can we meditate on this as Brahman?
No. This is just one, as we said, this has been referred to in the first session. There, the teacher said that when you are meditating upon Brahman, then if you happen to experience something, if you happen to see something, if you see if the form of Ishvara, understand that this is not Brahman in its entirety. This is just one aspect of Brahman. This is, you are objectifying Brahman. That coolness, feeling of that coolness is also an experience which will come and go. And you will remain what you are. That is an object and you are the subject. Already the duality of the subject and object is there. Brahman cannot be something which is away from you. Similarly, here, these are the different experiences one may have. But don't think this is the end of it. This is not Brahman. Rather than that, go back to the source. Try to inquire into who you are with the help of the teacher. Is my answer satisfying? I mean,
Yes, Swaminiji, I think it was very clear. I think Swaminiji, we with this there are no more questions, and
okay.
with this we come to a conclusion of this session. And I, on the behalf of the entire Advaita Academy, on behalf of all the viewers, I like to thank you very much for this wonderful session, for first agreeing to come on this program and then sharing with us all these very deep and practical insights on how we can meditate, how we can follow Vedanta in a practical sense. Not everyone will have interest or even competency to study the Upanishads or the Brahma Sutras in detail. But these practical meditation tips are something that everybody will be hugely benefited from. And I thank you on behalf of all of us for doing this session with us.
I hope it has helped everyone, and it has been a pleasure doing this. So thank you very much. Thanks all the audience also. Thank you.
Yeah.
Namaskar.
Namaste, Swamiji. Viewers, with this, we are ending this weekend with wisdom. But tomorrow we do have sessions. Tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. and then again evening. We are starting a new series, a new talk series on life and works of Advaita Acharyas. And tomorrow's session will be taken by Shri Dr. Gokul Krishna on the life and work of Sri Appaya Dikshitendra, one of the stalwart of Advaita tradition. And in the morning session, Dr. Gokul Krishna will be speaking about life of Appayaji. And in the evening session, he will shed light on the various diverse nature of works that Appaya Dikshitendra has done. So do join. If you have not registered, you can go to our website and register for the sessions, or you can watch it live on our Facebook page. Just follow us on Facebook and Twitter. With this, we conclude today's session. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.